Step 4. A closer look. Want to be an expert student? An expert teacher? Then this step is just for you. The individual parts or bits within the heuristic triangle, concept, symbol and sound, can be further broken down into even smaller parts. Let's start with concept. Number 1, physical concept. This is a physical object or thing that is being studied or taught. In our earlier example with how to make a cup of coffee, the teacher would have actual cups, physical hot water, and real coffee granules or beans. These would be classed as physical concepts, or if teaching about rivers, be standing next to a real flowing river, or learning about the moon, be pointing at it with a telescope. Even a telescope itself can be classed as a physical concept if you bring one into class. Physical concept is by far the strongest way to pass on or understand information, as it has more pedagogical value. Big word alert. Hang on, what's pedagogical value? It's simple. Pedagogical value is a term used to describe the value of how something is taught or learned and how useful it is to learn. For example, when teaching or learning about something that is cold, touching a bag of ice cubes has a high pedagogical value because touching an ice cube has obviously more pedagogical value than just a photo of an ice cube. It makes it almost instantly understood. Also, teaching a child to cross the road safely on their own has a high pedagogical value, whereas teaching a cat to walk around using a dog lead has absolutely zero pedagogical value and probably annoys the cat. 2. Represented concept. A represented concept is something that represents the concept, but actually isn't the physical object or thing. These would include such things as a photo of a river or a drawing of a telescope, or even a YouTube video like the one you're watching right now. The represented concept types are the most frequently used within learning and teaching, as they are the most cost effective and convenient, like flashcards and those photos of the menu items you see in fast food restaurants. 3. Pure concept. These are the trickiest concepts as you can't touch them or see them. They are more idea-like than physical. They include such things as peace or hate, boredom, fun, and so on. They can usually only be explained through analogy or represented concept. That's concepts done, and there are 3 types of them. On to symbol. Symbol. There are 2 different kinds of symbol in the heuristic triangle. 1. Lexis symbol. These are basically any language in written form, letters or words, that are not numeric. This includes all languages, such as English, Sanskrit, Chinese, and also includes hieroglyphic and hieratic texts. This is the most common form of learning. You're reading them right now. Number 2, numeric symbol. These symbols are just numbers, such as 1 or 1000 or 3649.8, etc. The only reason they are separated as different to Lexis symbols is purely to avoid any confusion. 1 can ride a bike, whereas 1 couldn't, and 2, and so on. And finally, onto sound, which is split into 2 parts. Number 1, instructional sound. These are simply the sounds we make to each other in order to convey information. Words, numbers, ideas, etc. You are now listening to my voice giving a voiceover for this video, for example. This is instructional sound. Number 2, abstract sound. These are sounds that do not convey any information other than the sound itself, such as music, or the sound of wind or rain, or even a burp. They are abstract in nature. They are more atmospheric than instructional, but are very valuable when used effectively. It's important to understand that everyone, including you, was a baby once, and every sound to a baby was just an abstract noise until we tagged a meaning onto it, which turned it into an instructional sound. The word sheep, for example, was just a noise when you heard it as a child, until someone pointed out a sheep in a field. It was at that moment the word or sound sheep switched from being just an abstract sound that you've heard many times before as a baby or child to an instructional sound with meaning. So what we've learned over the last couple of steps is that by adapting to how the mind understands information rather than have a go and see if it sticks, we increase your success rate when studying. You know what you should know, and more importantly, what's missing: concept, symbol, and/or sound. By doing this, we guarantee an increase from the standard pass rate of 75% to 95% and above. This is empirical. So, on to the final step, step 5, cognition versus non-cognition. Don't worry, it's easy. Step 5. Can I tell if I didn't understand something? Well done, you're at the final step, cognition versus non-cognition. How can I tell if someone has understood something, or if they haven't understood? Are there signs? As mentioned in previous videos, the body gives clear signals if it likes or dislikes something. Pain if it doesn't like what you're doing, and pleasure if it does. Survival as its goal. The mind, however, is still relatively new to us in terms of research and exploration. Having said that, research has thrown up some surprising proof that people do signal when they have understood something or when they didn't. We just didn't spot them before, or ignored them because we didn't think they were important. These signals are called indicators. They are very similar to the pleasure and pain responses and can be easily spotted once you're aware of them. What follows are the indicators for both positive and negative indicators. As far as an instant way of knowing someone has understood something, the "I get it now" is concerned, there is only one true indicator. The response in question is one we have all seen and heard time and time again. We've even done it at least a few thousand times in our lives without even thinking about it. It happens in both educational and personal situations alike. We have ignored it as unimportant almost subconsciously. The truest indicator for when a person or group totally understands is when they tilt back their heads, raise their eyebrows, and say, "Ah," in a knowing way, as you can see on screen. This particular indicator, the primary positive indicator, or PPI, is the mind's equivalent of laughing when they hear a funny joke. You can't help but laugh. It's also very useful for teachers to recognize that. If this PPI is not shown, it tells you that the student or students may not have understood completely. Check comprehension in those that didn't show this positive indicator until they do. Number 2, negative indicators. There are a few negative indicators, NIs, that show up when a group or a person haven't grasped or understood what is being studied. The most important of these primary negative indicators, or PNI, is that common enemy, boredom. Usually shows up as the dreaded yawn. We've always known it was a bad indicator, but we haven't realized it's the mind's version of mild pain. Under normal circumstances, that yawn would be met with, "Let's try something different. Let's try party hats," or "Let's make a different kind of spaghetti and see if that sticks to the wall." Then we try something else, then something else, until eventually and unknowingly hit the correct combination of concept, symbol, and sound in our teaching, and suddenly it works. This perfectly highlights the state of play in terms of instructional practice, throwing enough darts at the board until at least one dot hits the bullseye eventually. Up until now, we never really knew why or how this was happening. Negative indicators are the enemy of understanding, and boredom is the harbinger of worse things to come. This is because boredom leads to yawning, and yawning can be described as the general symptomatic result of repeated misunderstandings. Yawning is normally associated with tiredness. Perhaps the mind gets so tired of misunderstanding what's being taught, it shows itself as a yawn. If unchecked, this boredom will trigger another negative indicator, distraction. 2. Distraction. This is the point where the person or group being instructed is no longer being taught. They are elsewhere mentally, the computer equivalent of a screen freeze. If this distraction isn't dealt with immediately, it will turn into alternate focusing, which means that the the person or group simply think or do other things. They start thinking about lunch or talking off topic to other members of the group, or in the case of an individual, they may begin blaming the instructor or blaming the boring information. These are just mental mechanisms the mind uses to indicate, I don't understand. The mind's equivalent of discomfort or pain. However, if this is not checked and dealt with immediately, these symptoms will degrade into even worse negative indicators such as frustration, disruption, anger, hitting out, etc., until they simply don't take part anymore. Refusal to speak, lateness, absence, and so on. Also bear in mind that they might not be bored or frustrated at the information presently being studied. It may be because of previous situations, or they're just tired or bored because they're going to a party later. Then again, they might just not like the teacher or find the subject genuinely boring. Nonetheless, they are indicators and should not be dismissed. All these negative indicators are simply the human mind's way of saying, you are not giving me this information in the way I need it or value. So I can fully understand it. The mind needs information delivered to it in a very particular way. Concept, symbol, and sound. If we ignore this, we will continue to fail in studying and passing exams. The first action from this point on would be to personally never ignore something you don't fully understand. Whether it's a word or phrase you've never come across before, or the pronunciation you don't know, or an idea you don't quite grasp. Ask questions, check details, understand, and use the heuristic triangle as a guide tool. It's how your mind works and what it needs. After all, the word heuristic comes from the Greek heurisko, which means I discover. You are now in control of your own success. Thank you for watching this and other videos. If you haven't seen them yet, click the links below. And if you've learnt something today, click the like button. It's free and it helps us bring new content. Keep up to date with our latest videos by clicking subscribe, then click the bell and click the notify all option. If you have any comments, we love receiving those. This is Puzzled Life TV. See you next time, and watch out for new answers to everyday problems, and good luck with your studies.